Okay, everything should be working well. Yep. Okay, looks like I'm live. I'm gonna assume I'm live. That's all I can do. Okay, another Friday where we're working on stuff. So, my last couple of videos, I talked about, well, live videos, I guess. I talked about organizing, kind of like getting a list together of all the things I need to organize so that I can prep for the session 0. And one of those things was a one-on-one with each of my players to really get their stats down. And we did a lot of reorganizing and we did a lot of homebrewing. So that is what we're going to talk about today. I did record that process. I recorded the one-on-ones. So maybe in the future I will splice those together so that you can kind of see the conversations that were had based on like what my characters or what my players wanted for their character, and then how we made decisions to switch their stats around. And then, so I might do that, but I don't have that available right now. So you're going to have to take my kind of second-handed explanation of why we change stats around. But I wanted to make sure that not only did their stats work for the type of character they wanted, but they would also work for what I am going to be like throwing at them, or what they'll be experiencing. Let's not call it throwing at them. Let's call it experiencing what they'll be experiencing in the game, because my game that I'm developing is going to be a little bit different. So I said I think maybe in the first video, that this game is really a hodgepodge of all of the books and the movies about playing a game inside of a game. So our full game is Kids on Bikes. Like, that's the game we're all playing. That's the campaign we're playing. And then the game that they're playing inside of the game is called The Red Bridge. So all of the supernatural, strange happenings are happening because of the game, The Red Bridge, inside of the game, The Kids on Bikes. As I say this out loud, it makes less and less sense, but this is the best. This is the best I can do. So I had to, so as I was like writing it, and remember that it's based on several things, but the main thing that my game is going to be based off of is kind of half Jumanji, half the Phantom Tollbooth. And if you haven't looked at those works, highly suggest, they're really good. With a touch of Alice in Wonderland, and maybe a sprinkle of Wizard of Oz. So when I think about the adventures that they could possibly go on in the real world, as well as in Avaria, which is the world inside of the Red Bridge, I have to think of like what they'll actually be encountering and what stats would actually like help them. And so we talked a lot about that, and that's what we're going to talk about today as well. Okay. So first off, we are using the Kids on Bikes version 1.1. So these are the generalities that are in the basic game that we're going to keep most of. I do make some not really additions, but I do clarify what the basic stats are going to be used for, and then I do also kind of develop some tropes that are a little bit more, they're not really sliced, honestly. They're completely like cherry picked based on what the character is going to be like, and so they're really pretty much 100% homebrew. And then there are other ones where I've spliced things together. So for the basic stats, we have brains, brawn, fight, flight, charm, and grit. You use the D20, the D12, the D10, the D8, the D6, and D4. And in that order, it sort of is what your top and what your bottom is. So whatever stat, so if brains is your D20, then that's your top stat. And if grit is your D4, then that's your bottom stat. And that's what we really focused on. I really focused on what their top stat is going to be, what their bottom stat is going to be, and then we kind of shimmied things in the middle based on what they would do in a situation. So I gave them the same scenarios when I would ask them like how their character would react, what was the first thing your character would do. Would they try to do this or would they try to do that? To kind of gauge where, what would be their D20, what would be their D12, and then what would be their D4 at the end. And then in between, I kind of just gave them autonomy to shift that around based on what they thought would be useful. So those are the character stats, that's the dice, and then we have the list of teenage tropes. They really kind of do run a really good gambit. So if they wanted to just use the basics, I think it would have worked well in our group. What I will say is that I have all of my players are, how do I say this? They really wanted to be kind of smart asses. if I'm honest, like the combination of the group reminds me heavily of the Breakfast Club, except for there's no brainy one. Which I thought was hilarious. So I liked that. But I wanted to make sure that they at least had the stats that I knew they were going to use the most. And so that kind of goes to the type of game that I'm going to be playing. So I do say that this is a child like adventure. So when I say adventure, I am thinking like very Kids on Bikes adventure type of adventure. Sort of like, turn to the page if you chose this selection type of adventure. So while there might be some times where they need to fight and brawn their way out, or even flight their way out, it's going to be important that they are fairly even in terms of like who we have in the top spots, so that if hypothetically they were separated, they'd be able to survive. And when I mean survive, I don't mean survive. That's a slip from me as a horror DM. They're gonna be fine, but I do want them to be prepared to essentially, fight their, because, so how do I say this? I am going to be creating things, enemies, challenges that are unique to the characters in a way where I want them to kind of almost fight like their own inner demons. That's really where this game is going to be like leaning towards in terms of challenges for them. So I don't necessarily need like a top in all. I just need their top to make sense for their character, because what I'm going to throw at them is going to be tailor-made for their character. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we have all the teenage tropes, and I'm not going to go over the tropes, but I will go over the stats, so you can kind of see, and if you're not familiar with Kids on Bikes in the rule book, I would highly suggest just, picking it up and reading it through. Really fun game, and I have so far really enjoyed organizing our first campaign. So, and I don't know yet how long this will be. I'm assuming this could be fairly lengthy, but not like D&D lengthy. So, I don't know how long it will be, but I am planning for, multiple sessions or multiple episodes. So there should be plenty of content there. Okay, so I wanted to essentially, when I gave them examples, talk about what I plan to use them for. So the TRB is the Red Bridge is what that stands for. So when I would ask them like what their top stats are going to be, if they were gonna say brains, so we already know that like brains is like book smart, but it's also good at like school things and academic problems. However, because this game inside of a game is, the theme is obviously games, and the issues that's going to come out of these games. So what they're really going to be doing is also solving some complex puzzles, maybe escaping a trapped room, and outsmarting someone based on like intellectual knowledge. Think of another really good example, which is The Labyrinth. It's such a good movie. But one of the puzzles in like the main is in The Labyrinth are the two doors, that type of stuff. You see what I'm saying? So like if your character is very good at that type of stuff, and you like your character enjoys that stuff, and they find those types of challenges their strength, it would make sense that your top would be brains. Will it matter too much if they get like an F in school? I don't think so. Not from how I'm writing this game. Like they're going to be in school, and they're going to, encounter things that have to do with grades, but I don't anticipate having that weigh heavily on the brain stat, how they're doing in school. So I did want to give them more like context for what they would be using that stat for if it was their top stat. Same thing with brawn. So even though this is for like brute strength, and they do say it's for like how well they fight, I interpreted that of like fisticuffs. So like using your bare knuckles, your bare hands, and when it comes with fighting is more than just doing a left hook or like punching someone. It's also like grappling. It's also holding. Like it's whatever you would do with all of your muscles in your entire body to subdue somebody. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, that grappling and holding would be a part of that. Intimidation, I wanted to give a different spin on what intimidation could look like, because they are all teenagers. Like, I think they're all like 14, except for one person who's like 16. It's going to be difficult to intimidate people at 14 years old. So even if you have like a high brawn. So there's other things you can do where perhaps you wouldn't intimidate, but perhaps you would like highly distract. You could still best someone physically though. Good arm wrestle. You never know. You could just just be doing arms, 5 times a day. That person doesn't know you. I don't know. So I kind of gave some more context to what brawn as a top stat would kind of be used for them. Next is fight. So we really focused on the weaponry of fight. So instead of brawn, which we kind of interpreted as more of like fisticuffs, for fighting, we really interpreted that more as something you would use, other than your hands. And that includes I did decide that isn't going to include like bare knuckles. Because not bare knuckles, but like bare knuckles. I don't know why they call those, but like spike knuckles, or like things that go on your knuckles and you have to like fight with them. I did decide that was a weapon, even though you are punching. Well, I guess it could go in brawn or fight. I don't know. Am I gonna give somebody bare knuckles? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So we wanted to talk about like weaponry, and so we're keeping obviously the regular stat, but I also wanted to give them the option to make non-weapons a weapon. And to have like proficiency with that. They just have to kind of explain how they're turning that non-weapon into a weapon. And in reality, almost anything can be a weapon if you are in the situation of like high anxiety and you need to protect yourself. Like anything around you, you can pick up and figure out how to defend yourself. Whether that will be whether it'll work or not. It's really the question. You hear a lot about like really like well seasoned and well trained, like military, and saying that they can like use a pencil or use a pen, but like you next to your desk, can you use a pen to incapacitate someone? Probably not. So they're not only can they make non-weapons into weapons, but they would also have proficiency just like any other weapon. And then using an enemy's weapon against them. So I'm thinking they're more of like organic weapons, so like things you wouldn't really consider a weapon because they're on a creature, and it's their weapon. So obviously you wouldn't know how to use it, but maybe with the top fight you might be able to figure out how. And then sort of having like a strategy bonus, like you're knowing how to defend, almost like you're playing tower defense, and being good at that game. So I hope that you're getting the theme here of games, of puzzles, of tower defense, of that type of stuff, because that's what this is. It's them playing this game, and so things have to be themed in that way. So I did want to make sure that the character stats made sense for how they were going to do that. Flight, we're not really changing anything. It's pretty much going to be the same with no clarifications. Charm is also going to be pretty much the same with no clarifications or additions. And then grit is how hard you can like break emotionally and physically. But I also wanted to expand that to that kind of creating resilience, which is different than street smarts in some ways, and also still different than intellectual intelligence, but it is its own type of intelligence, that like intelligence you get from consistent resilience. So you can still outsmart people but with a different type of wit than you would if you were street smart, which is, I think, brawn. I can't remember which one street smart is. Or more academically smart, which would be brains. And then is a prepper. So one of the things I kind of wanted grit to symbolize is that, again, because of your consistent high resilience, you just prep for things, you know? Like, it's one of those characters that always seem to have what you need in their bag. You don't know how long they've had it and why they even have that on them. But they just always seem to have what you need. And if they don't have what you need, they can get it. And then easy assimilation. So this is kind of a barbed wire type of use, but it's very, very useful in some situations. So yeah, they can easily assimilate. So it kind of goes back to that, really difficult to break and having a level head, but also you can really become a part of the place that you're at, like, very easily. And obviously that can become a negative if you continue to, like, either move to different places or go to like highly opposite places. And you assimilate one place and then you have to assimilate in another place. It really changes the way that your character develops over time, as does consistent resilience. So those are I'm calling them additions, but they're really just clarifications on how we're going to be using the stats. And this is a lot of the thinking that I had for us having our one-on-ones, so that I could create stats that make sense for their characters and also make sense for what they're going to be playing in the game. So that's like your general stats. And so we move on to what that looks like, what those stats and organizing those stats look like in terms of the tropes. So at the moment, I have 5 players. I don't know if I will have 5 regular players for the entire campaign, but at the moment I have 5 players, and these are not final names or trope names. These are just ones that we made, and some of them I made based on how we reorganized their stats. So we have the theater kid, the slacker, the softball star, the domino, and the secret supplier. Okay, so I try to explain that some of them I hodgepodged, but really we went through each stat, and we had a discussion about which one made most sense to be at the top, which one made most sense to be second, third, etc., etc. So really they're kind of borrowed, but also kind of not borrowed. Like the domino and the slacker, I kind of used, the wannabe and the weirdo to kind of start those stats. So that's what their tops are like that. But what happens with the middle and the bottom, that was, again, just having a conversation. Same thing with the secret supplier. They were having, we decided on like a bottom of brains, and that kind of came from a little bit from the Brutish Jock, but the rest was, again, highly customized, just based on conversations. Are these going to be the finals? I don't know. We are going to be playing a prequel. Well, I'm not calling it a prequel. We're going to be playing a children's section of the campaign where they really get to actually like play their characters almost like growing up. And this will be just something for them to decide who their character really is, because I feel like we like, as RPG players, we really create our characters like on a piece of paper, and then we like have them in our head. But it's really when we start playing with them that we really settle into who this person is and how they interact with the world around them and how they interact with the people around them. I want to see what that looks like for them, and then we will do like a finalization of their stats when we are done that campaign. So that it's going to be like locked in, and then we're going to move forward with whatever those are, and whatever those are, those will be announced when we play the game. So that is the homebrew. Something else I wanted to do last time, which I was able to kind of start, was to get a playlist together, which I did kind of do. I also wanted to make sure that I had worked on the map and get that somewhat done. And I've been working on this map for a long time now, and let's look at the map. let's look at the map, because I have been working on this map for, I don't know, weeks now. And I think I am doing better with it. But man. Okay. Okay, so this is what we're looking at here. So again, this place that they created is called Shady Creek, and I set it in Missouri. I explain it to them as being a small to medium-sized town that is quickly growing. So this map is supposed to be spanning between 1986 and 1996. And between 1986 and 1996, they go from like maybe a small to a medium-sized town. But in 1996 and moving forward, while they go through high school, it's going to be growing very rapidly. So there will be another map, I guess. There will be another map that I'll have to figure out later. But right now, I can only just do one at a time. This is probably the most complex map I have had to make, because I usually make maps in Inkarnate. I think you guys have seen that if you see my previous videos. And those maps are usually world maps. And then I do region maps. But I rarely do town maps unless I need them to go somewhere in particular, and then it's still a region map. It's just, you just zoom in. And then I do battle maps. So, but this needs to be kind of everything. It kind of needs to be the whole view map, a region map, so like of each of the zones in the town. It kind of needs to have everything that a small to medium town would have, which the first iteration of this, I didn't even have a post office. I was like, holy crap, I was missing so much stuff. And so it really helped me to talk with the players one-on-one, because they really reminded me that I need other stuff, other important stuff in this town, other than a conservatory or something like that. So I think this is good. I didn't even have a fire station, guys, and I don't have a police station. So I don't know what to tell you. There's no crime. I don't know. I might put the fire station and like the police station in the same building. I don't know. I need. This is still a draft. I'm not yet ready to share this because I keep forgetting that I need other important stuff. Like a police station. Or maybe I don't. I don't know. So one of the things that I need to decide is the boundaries of this town, how close this town is to other towns, and what like municipality it's in, or what county it's in. Is this like a sheriff situation? Like, I need to make those decisions so that perhaps we don't need a police station inside of the town. Perhaps there's a police station in like on the outskirts, so that's not in town, but it services this town. I don't really know. I haven't decided what the culture is gonna look like for this area of Missouri that I am inventing, because this isn't a real town. So, and the only reason I'm trying to make this a little bit more realistic, unlike, when I make other maps, I also don't put a fire station. Those are usually different time zones. This is supposed to be 1996, so I do need to make it fairly realistic, because let's say my players see something and they want to call the police. Makes sense. That makes sense. Is it going to be a situation where they have like patrols, but there's no station like in the boundaries of town, so they'd have to go out of town? And if they do, like, how far is that? Is that normal? These are all questions I have not figured out yet. So once I do them, I will make changes accordingly. So, but right now I put a fire station in there, on the residential side of the map, and you can kind of see I also have zones marked out. These zones are half going to be for me, so that I can like zoom in into a zone and show them all of the places in that area, and then it's also half kind of helping me with distance. So I think one of my players was asking me like what the town makeup kind of looks like, and right now I am putting the kids in this left corner. I should put a little sun dial thing to show like southeast, southwest, but it's the southwest corner, and this is where all the kids are going to live. And the only thing in here is like a small fire station and a daycare. So this is their little area. And the B is the hill. So that's where they're all going to be living. And then on the other side, like if you go past like this little central area, is more housing. So we have like another living community, which is the Sanford communities. As well as like a little farm area that's just probably for like, a petting farm. And then we have, a post office and a veterinarian. And then we're starting to get a little further in the center of town, and that's where we have the town hall. So I'm trying to also make it make sense in terms of, if they needed to get to the town hall from where they live, how long and what route would they need to take to like get there? Same thing with if they wanted to go to the mall, which is up here, I think. Yeah, way up here. This is probably the longest. How would they get there? Is there a bus system? I think so. I think there's a bus system. And I don't know if I want to do like layered maps, and I think I do, because I think that would be easier for me. That way I can just have a master map where I can see where everything is, and then I can give players, the different layers based on what they learn. Because I want to know like where all the bus stops are, so that if they ask me a question of like if they can take a bus, I can be like, sure, and the bus stop is right here. I could always just ad-lib that on the spot, but the problem with ad-libbing too much is that I will forget it. So you ask me if there's a bus stop next to the school one moment, I'm gonna be like, yeah, that makes sense. And then you ask me again, I'm gonna be like, great question. What did I say last time? So if I can have at least an understanding of like where I want things to be, then I can kind of ad lib around it. But if I don't want there to be a bus stop in this area, then I want to make sure that it's not on my master map. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a master map where everything is on it. So it's probably going to be a little bit messy, but because I created it, I should be able to know where everything is. That's how that works. And so I think this will be my master map. It'll have the zones. It'll have all of the items. It'll have bus stops. It'll have, I don't know, whatever else I need to have on there. And then I will give so I've already given players, I believe, an empty map, or at least I've showed them an empty map, because right now that's all they know. They don't know, like, I gave them the empty map with the key, but they don't know where things are, because they're going to have to learn them, when they become a teenager and they start navigating the city. But even as a teenager, depending on how much independence you have or how much your parents take you around, you might never go to, the Grady Office Center. You might just like go past it once in a while when you go to the mall. So you'll know that it's over here, but you don't know like what's in here because you've like never gone. If you don't have a pet, perhaps you've never gone to the veterinarian, because why would you go to a veterinarian when you don't have a pet, or you're not taking care of someone's pet, or, so there are places that different characters will know where different things are. And then there are places that like all of the characters will have to figure out like where it's located on the map. And then there's a lot of places that they'll already know because they've lived in this town their whole lives. So they'll kind of know where most of the stuff are. But there are some things that just doesn't make sense for certain people to go to. So that's kind of how I'm playing the map. I'm playing it as a source of discovery for them as they play the game. And because I kind of need a master map, I also needed to figure out what I wanted Shady Creek to kind of look like, and I wanted to figure out the type of style. So this is kind of giving kind of cartoony, but like not too cartoony, but clearly drawn. And I think I decided I want to stay with that style, that kind of drawn style. Because I think it makes sense for how I'm playing this game, which is all about children and imagination and games. Like I wanted to kind of continue to have that feel throughout. So so these are all just kind of like pictures that I have found on Canva, but I really liked the painted look of these, like hand painted look of these. I feel like these are appropriate for like the look that I'm going for. I also think they're really pretty. Very simple, but very pretty. Really gives, childlike wonder, I think. So, I think that is kind of the look I essentially want to go for when I show images. They're going to be pretty plain, pretty simple, clearly hand-painted or hand-drawn. And I think that's going to look really nice. So that has been kind of what I've been working on. Trying to figure out kind of the vibe of the city, working on the map, making sure that this is an actual town. Oh, goodness. And trying to get everything ready so that I can actually share stuff with players, because I do want to start giving them some stuff, but as I think about the way I want them to uncover information, I want to make sure that anything I give is like appropriate for how much I want them to know and how much I don't want them to know right off the bat. So that's one of the reasons why it's taking me so long to make this darn map, because originally I didn't really have any reasoning to where I put stuff. My very first map, and I think I may have showed it, my very first draft was I just put stuff everywhere. It didn't really make sense. So this one, I actually arranged things based on how I thought it would make the most sense in this type of town, and also for the kids to like get around, as well as to kind of create interest. Like, I think originally I had like the factory up here. I think it was like up here in this area. This was going to be the old factory, and then I moved it to, where did I move it? I think I moved it here. Yeah, I moved it here, manufacturing. And so I moved it here because it's right across the street from the mall, and it's a little closer to the high school. Just so that it's a place that like our kids go by quite a lot. They don't ever go in. I don't think I have anybody who works at the factory, but like if your parents work at the factory, you would also go there. But it's a place that they are very familiar with. The schools probably take them on trips there. And it's right across from the mall, and it's like right down the street from the high school. It's an intriguing place. And that is done on purpose. So I try to be a little bit more purposeful with the placement of some things. I also am trying to figure out like distances of things, because this looks like it's down the street right here, but maybe this is a couple of city blocks instead of like down the street, how we would think of down the street of like half a block or a block or two. I don't know yet. I haven't yet figured out how far things are, and I need to do that so that I know how long it would take them to get from like where they live to this side of town or this side of town. So like the north side of town or the southeast side of town. I need to figure that out. Like, how long would it take them to get to the mall if they were driving, or if they were taking the bus, or if they were taking their bikes. I need to figure all of that out. So I haven't done that yet. That's later. That's when I have time to do that. But overall, I think this is a really good rendition of this town. Not finalized yet. I'm very close. I'm so close to finalizing it, and I'm kind of ready to be done, because I have a whole nother map I need to do when I do the map for Avaria. So I explained in the last game, or in the last video, that Avaria is the world inside of the Red Bridge, which is the game they all play. And the game, the Red Bridge, comes with pieces for them to play with. And one of the pieces in that game is a map. So I need to make that map, like a game board map of Avaria. And then I need to make a real life map of Avaria. So, did I just explain that well? Okay. So, I am finding it crazy difficult to kind of explain the ideas behind all of the different components of the Red Bridge, the game, because I think it's because I haven't created it yet. So I'm using the template of the Phantom Toll booth, where a child receives this game. from like nowhere. The game is something that they have to put together. So they get a map that comes with it that shows them the world that they're going to go into. They get like a little car and a toll booth that they get to put together. And it's like made of like cardboard. So they put that together and they put it in the room, and then they play as if they're going, through a toll booth, and then they have like a ticket and everything. That was even a worse explanation, but essentially that the purpose of why I'm doing the map, and I'm giving everyone tokens, and I'm giving everyone like a train, because the train is the way that they're going to be traveling throughout the world instead of a car, which is what the Phantom Toll Booth uses, is because, and then of course you have the bridges that you need to set up in the town. So the reason why I'm doing all of that is because this game that they're playing is literally the premise. It's like the thing that is the most important thing for everyone. So I do actually need to like create the game. I can't like say, oh, you are playing a game and now you're in this world. That's not going to work, because it's not going to work, because the way that the game intertwines with the real world and the way that they're growing up and all of that, it just would be impossible for it not to be a flushed out game. So one of the reasons why I'm trying to finish this map as like sometime this freaking millennia is because I really need to start on creating this game, The Red Bridge, so that they can play it. That's kind of a priority. So yeah, that's probably gonna be my next thing after I finalize this dang map, which I'm really hoping will be any moment. I even went online to see if I could like find a list of like everything that should go into like a medium-sized town, just to get an idea of like what I would need in it. And so one of the things I need to do, which I'm probably going to do right now before we end up, is search if a police station needs to be within the confines of a town, or if it needs to be just within the confines of a county, or what. Like, I need to know if I need to put a police station up in here so that I can rearrange some things. If I don't need to put a police station in here, that's fine, but I need to make the decision of how long it would take, or like I kind of probably need to search how police stations work, like in terms of like how towns decide where they're located and what the response time looks like, because we have a hospital. So in the hospital is going to be like ambulance service, and then we have a fire station, that makes sense. But police station, I don't know, because don't police they're just out, so do we need to, when I mean by out, it's like they have like rounds, they have like areas that they patrol. So unlike a fire station, like fire stations don't go out and just patrol with like a tank of water all day. So that's why they need to be placed in certain places. So I wonder if I even need one. And if I don't need one, then maybe this is good enough. And I'm actually good. And I'm actually like good to make this my first final. And when I say first final, I mean this would be shared with players as a first final, which means they would get the empty map, they would get this final map key that shows that this is what is on the map, and then they would get the zones, but that would be their like first final. And then when I'm fully finished and this is ready to actually like go out and be played in for session 0, then that would be like the final map key essentially. So I think I might not need one, but I'll have to look that up and see if That's how that works. Real quick, I'm gonna do that right now. Oh, while I'm doing that, I'll show you a little thing I'm working on. Because I'm gonna really quickly search if I need a police station. I'm gonna search if I need a police station. So let me do that. And while I'm doing that, I am going to play this little thing that I've been working on. And then once it's done, I'm sure I will have my answer. Okay. I found the answer. Okay, so no is the answer, essentially. Okay. Cool. So I actually think that I'm good then, to do what I was thinking, which is not have a police station here. But I wouldn't have a station that they could like go to, in the borders of the town, but that doesn't mean there wouldn't be police like around, and I can still have NPCs who make their rounds and are a part of the town, so that if they want to call in police, they can. Okay, that was good. That kind of helped me. So we have a veterinarian, a hospital, a hardware, a dental office, like an office center, which would have like administration stuff, a manufacturing place, retirement place, apartments, a restaurant, the one restaurant. There's probably going to be like small eateries in the mall, like a Sbarro or something like that. But there's not going to be like a nice restaurant like Valdea's Eatin' Restaurant is the only restaurant. We have a funeral place, a cemetery, a conservatory, the fairgrounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, 4 parks, really. And then the orchard, which is also kind of considered a park as it is open. And then we have a place called The Creek, which I'm thinking is going to be like kind of like a not a club. Well, maybe it is a club. Kind of like a social club. That is a club. It's going to be like a social hangout for, I'm thinking like young adults, So that, and we have town hall, which I'm making town hall be like all government buildings. Like that entire area is going to be all government buildings, except for the post office, which is down at the, okay. And then we have the schools. There's only one elementary, one middle, and one high. And then we have a daycare, which will probably just also have preschool embedded in it. I feel like, and a library. I feel like that's good. I don't know. I might be missing some stuff where people are like, well, what about this? I'm like, well, we don't have one. Which isn't, like abnormal for very small towns. It's just that I'm trying to make this one more of a medium-sized town. So they should really have almost everything. Like everything you would need to be self-contained. Because that's the whole purpose of like big cities and huge urban areas, is that you have everything at, in your area so that you don't have to leave if you don't have to. They are not that size yet, and so they shouldn't have everything, but they are growing. So I just wanted to make sure that I kind of show that. And I don't have the map up, even though that's what I'm looking at. You know what? You get you understand. You understand my language. Yeah, I didn't even mention this. Yeah, so this is like a little thing I'm working on. That's it. That's just a little thing I'm working on. Don't worry about it. The chaos of this morning is actually on par for this early. Okay, so I was saying that I was just going down the list here to make sure that this all made sense. I feel like I have enough for a small to medium-sized town that's growing. Like they just got a mall. Like that mall is opening, I believe, in 1996. That mall is opening. Like it's brand new. So they're growing, but they're still growing slowly, and they're growing like in the time that our players are teenagers. So I think it makes sense for them still to have that small town charm, but they are growing into, medium size, and maybe they'll cap it there. I don't really know. But they are growing. So I think this is good. I think I got a lot organized and decided today, which was, I think this is going to be my first draft, or my first final draft for this map. I'm going to move forward with this being my master map, and I'm going to go ahead and place like bus stops and other like smaller things so that I kind of know where I kind of know where I don't want things to be. That's really what's most important, not necessarily where things are, because I can always just make that up. But if I specifically don't want there to be a bus that goes to the Sanford communities, because they're one of those communities that are like, I don't know, gated, and they don't want a bus or a train stop, in front of their community, then I want to make sure that I literally like don't put anything there. But I think that's going to be that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and end up for the day, because I got all of the things I wanted to do. Again, that the music that I have been doing, the intro is called Alice in Dark Wonderland by Lexan Music. I just got that off of Pixabay. I think from what I can tell from how many times I've been using it, I'm thinking that is going to be the opening music, and the kind of closing music, like the because I've been testing it out obviously on everything, and I'm still loving it. So I'm thinking that will be kind of the music for this campaign, specifically for this first season. And so that is that song. And I think I'm going to end up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the little sneak peek of the other stuff I'm working on while I looked up if I needed a police station in this place. But I think that is going to be it today. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you next time.